Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our Edge of Eternities Commander deck profile, which may be the last one, I'm pretty sure. We have Alpharael Storm Chosen for 3 and 2 black for 3/3, or discard a card at random, so pretty heavy ward cost there for our opponents. And then he has, whenever he attacks, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell is warped this turn, defending player loses half their life rounded up, allowing us to deal half our opponent's life to them. Small warning with this one, you'll probably be the target of most people at the table because people hate losing half their life total. But that's why we have ways to make sure that we could double that damage in order to deal all their life to them in terms of damage. We have ways to just burn our opponents for the rest of the damage pretty easily. Ways to make sure he could attack and not die in the process, because once that gets up to 7 mana, it's quite the heavy cost. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. We have Ashnod's Altar. We want to make sure we have ways to also sacrifice creatures in order to make sure that we're having something leave the battlefield every turn. So we have plenty of ways to sacrifice creatures as well, which this will also give us some mana with that. Commander's Plate, in order to give our commander protection from everything other than black, giving it that +3/+3 as well. So we attack, deal half their life in terms of damage, and then we deal 6 damage to them on top of that, which is potentially enough to win the game, depending on where we're at. And then it can't be the target of, like, Beast Within, Path to Exiles, Cast Warps, and Pongify. Jet Medallion for some cost reduction. Lightning Grease, we want to make sure he could attack the turn he comes out, or she, I actually don't know. I have not read the lore for this yet. To make sure they could attack the turn they come out, in order to make sure that we could deal out damage right away. Mithril Coat to give it indestructible, in order to make sure that we're dealing all that damage to our opponent, in order to, make sure that we're surviving the trade while we're at it. Phyrexian Altar, sacrifice a creature in order to get that creature leaving the battlefield, in order to make sure our abilities can happen again and again with Alpharael. Adding that mana. Soul Ring for some additional mana. Swiftfoot Boots to make sure you can attack the turn they come down. Also gives them the Hexproof for that little bit of protection there as well. Drone of Eldraine, giving us 4 mana of the color that we need, because we're in a mono-colored deck, and then draw 2 cards. I can also spend mana of the chosen color to activate this ability, which, I mean, we only have mana of the chosen color. But overall, really good ability there, mono-colored decks. Trailblazer Boots, non-basic land walk. Most people, as long as you're not playing mono-colored decks, are going to have those non-basic lands. So that helps us out a whole bunch there, making sure we could also swing in for that damage. Whisper Silk Cloak. Equipped creature can be blocked and has Shroud, meaning we also can target it. So be careful, make sure you attach your other stuff first. But yeah, not being able to be blocked allows us to swing in for that damage. For our creatures, we have Curse Marauder. To make sure we're having a creature get removed every turn, we have some creatures that'll just sacrifice themselves while we're at it. Archfiend of Despair. Your opponent can't gain life, meaning that once we deal half their life to them, they've lost half their life. And at the beginning of each end step, if an opponent loses life this turn, they lose that much life again. So if they lost half their life total, they're losing the other half of their life total, because they couldn't gain life in the first place to heal themselves. Ayara, first a Lockwing, 3 mana, a little bit of extra burn damage. Another way to sacrifice our creatures, getting a little bit of draw power in the process, but also getting Alpharael's ability while we're there. Blood Artist, since we're going to be sacrificing creatures, we may as well deal some damage to our opponent while we're at it, and healing ourselves. This way, when we do get targeted by our opponent, we get the benefit of not losing right away. Bloodletter of Alcazatz, 4 mana for a 2/4. If an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life instead. So say if they're going to lose half their life total. What's 2 times half their life total? I think that's their full life total. Braid's Cabal Minion. This makes a sacrifice a non-land permanent. Well, I mean, you could sacrifice a land, but you're going to tend to sacrifice a non-land permanent, so you get a Pharaoh's ability, and this just helps us get there. Crypt Guest for some additional mana while we're at it. Elegy Acolyte allows us to get to the lifelink. Whenever one more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card, lose life. We have plenty of ways to make our commander unblockable, allowing us to get that ability while we're at it. And at the beginning of your end step, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell is warped this turn, create 2/2 robot. Plenty of ways to benefit off that with this deck. Fleshbag Marauder, same as a Curse Marauder. Lightless Evangel. Whenever you sacrifice another creature or artifact, put +1/+1 encounter on this creature. We're sacrificing creatures quite a bit, so we are going to need some bigger creatures in order to deal more damage to our opponent. Massacre Worm, or get rid of all of our opponent's tokens, potentially some of our stuff. Whenever a creature an opponent controls gets removed, you have to deal 2 damage to that player. I mean, deal half their life, then 2 damage for each creature that they had that was less than a 2/2. I think that's a pretty good trade for us there. Merciless Executioner, same as the Cursed Marauder. Morbid Opportunist for a little bit of draw power since we're going to be having creatures leave the battlefield all the time. A Geomancer in order to make sure we have a token that we could sacrifice in order to get the ability off, or sacrifice this creature while we're at it. Payless Plunderer, and we'll get some additional treasure tokens anytime a creature gets removed, which is going to be happening a whole bunch. Plague Crafter, same as a Cursed Marauder. Reassembling Skeleton, a creature that could keep coming back again and again, so we keep sacrificing it again and again to get that ability for Alpharael. Sephiroth, another way to sacrifice some creatures in our deck, along with burning our opponent while we're in the process, and getting some draw power for us, and maybe we'll get that emblem while we're there. Silent Arbiter, no more than one creature can attack each combat, no more than one creature can block each combat, allowing it a little bit easier for Alpharael to swing on our opponent in order to deal plenty of damage while we're at it. Timeline Caller, you may cast this card from your graveyard using its warp ability, just 1 mana, 2 life. I think that's worth it, because that gets our commander's ability off. Umbral Collar Zealot, another way to sacrifice some creatures in order to get Alpharael's ability off, along with getting some Surveil while we're at it. Unstoppable Slasher, why just deal half one opponent's life total? We do it to 2 different people. I don't know, maybe. Virtuous of Held, partner with another creature that's on the deck. Death Touch, when it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. So, we're putting our opponent at a quarter of the life total between this and Alpharael's ability, because it doesn't do it at the same time. Viscera, another way to sacrifice some creatures. Void Forge Titan, at the beginning of your end step. If non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or spells warp this turn, draw a card, lose a life. A little bit of draw power. We're sacrificing creatures a whole bunch, so we're going to be doing that every turn. And Zulaport Cutthroat, in order to benefit off of sacrificing our own creatures. For our enchantments, we have Bitter Blossom, in order to make sure we have more and more things to sacrifice there, in order to, get Alpharael's ability. Black Market, we're going to be sacrificing creatures left and right, so we may as well get a whole bunch of mana off of that. Black Market Connections, allowing us a creature token to sacrifice, or maybe a treasure token to sacrifice. Maybe just a little bit of draw power, depending on what we need at the time. Corral the Void, enchant player attacks, put target creature from the depending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and has the Void thing of someone needing to leave your battlefield, which is going to happen every turn. Maybe we just have to sacrifice our opponent's thing with like Ashnod's Altar or something, but overall, really helpful for us. Grave Pact. Whenever a creature you control dies, each player sacrifices a creature. We're going to be sacrificing our creatures because we want to. Our opponents are going to be sacrificing their creatures because they don't want to. So there are the Super Void. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent chooses a creature card they control and exiles it. And eventually you play that card from exile. But this plus this, we sacrifice one thing, our opponents are sacrificing 2 things. We're basically playing Tymna. Wound of Reflection, at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn. So maybe if they lose half their life, they're losing their full life again. Like to see it. On to the second half of the deck, we have Archenemy's Charm, exile a creature, recur a creature, or put some +1/+1 encounters and lifelink on a creature. That's what we need. Corrupted Conviction, sacrifice a creature. Of course, we like to do that, because we'll draw cards off it. Calling it a week, another way to sacrifice some of our creatures in order to get some mana off of it in the process. Dark Ritual, just a mana. Deadly Dispute, a little bit of draw power, and another way to sacrifice our creatures. Fake Your Own Death, we're sacrificing our creatures a whole bunch. Maybe we'll need to sacrifice something that we actually want, so may as well have it come back. Go for a draw for some removal. Immense Mischief, in order to make sure, make sure our opponent's not targeting Alpharael with some abilities to make sure that it can stay on the board to deal half the damage. Saw and a half, maybe we get 2 Alpharaels, but then one of them gets removed because of the legendary rule. In order to get one of our things to get removed from the battlefield, we're going to get a second copy of it, depending on what we need. Maybe a second Blood Artist, maybe a second Cryptic Gas. Depends on where we're at in the game. Or maybe second Bloodletter of Alcazaz so that they could lose 4 times half their life. So they're losing their 2 times their life total. So they already lost for last game. Children's Edict, another way to have a creature leave the battlefield. Yeah, really good ability there. Soul Shatter, each opponent sacrifices a creature in order to make sure we're getting rid of their stuff that gets in the way of Alpharael when they want to swing in. Undying Malice, another way to recur Alpharael to make sure they can deal that damage. Village Rites, another way to sacrifice Alpharael or another creature or draw some cards. Fetus Form, once again, we don't need our own creatures today. We can have our opponent's creatures get removed. Hymn of the Faller, surveil 1, draw a card, lose life. If we had sacrificed a creature earlier, we get to draw an additional one. With maybe something like Midgar City of Mako, which will get us that additional draw power on top of that. Knight's Whisper, a little bit more draw power, reanimate. I mean, we're removing a whole bunch of our opponent's stuff. We may as well get it back to our battlefield. Same thing with Rise of the Dark Realms. Get all their stuff back to our battlefield. Cyan Blood for that draw power, and then Toxic Deluge for a board wipe. Then we have Bajuka Bog, Abal Coffers, Phyrexian Tower, Rogue's Passage, Shizo's Death Storehouse, Susur Secundi Void Altar Swamp, and Witch's Cottage. But that's the deck there. If you guys like the deck, make sure you like the video. If you guys have your own way that you run the deck, leave it down there in the comment section. But thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and hopefully you subscribe so you can stay tuned for more like this.